Good morning, everyone. This is Nicole, and I wanted to give a shout out to all of my subscribers, those who support my channel. If this is your first time watching one of my videos, don't forget to hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and the notification bell so you can be notified when I go live and post new videos. The new videos I'm putting out are going to be a mix of science and tech, as well as other videos on relationships and just life in general. So I wanted to do this video on vulnerability and insecurities, and the best way to start the conversation on this is to define what I'm talking about. I like to give definitions and then expound upon those definitions. So according to just a Google search of vulnerability, it is, of course, a noun, the quality or state of being exposed to the possibility of being attacked or harmed, either physically or emotionally. And they have other things they've said. Another example is the liability of a partnership or higher penalties, either by convention or through having one game toward a rubber. Not sure what that really is saying, but as far as relationships, vulnerability is something that I think attracts men to women and vice versa, attracts women to men, because it shows that you're not a know-it-all. You're not a person who's trying to act very above anyone else. You're more humble when you're vulnerable. You're open to criticism. You're open to interpretation. Your activities and behaviors that you conduct are not just what they are. There is a rhyme and reason behind why you're doing what you're doing. So when I search for the other word, insecurity, and see what that says, it's also a noun, of course. And they have several definitions here. So what I want you to notice is that vulnerability had like one definition. Insecurity has several definitions, as well as synonyms for this word. It seems to me as though insecurities drive a lot of behaviors that we're observing out in the world, especially now with a lot of things changing in society. So you have one definition that says insecurity is uncertainty or anxiety about oneself, a lack of confidence. And I'm going to go into the differences between my personal idea, the differences between vulnerability and insecurity in a minute. So they give a phrase that says she had a deep sense of insecurity. The synonyms are, of course, lack of confidence, lack of self-confidence, self-doubt, diffidence, unassertiveness, humility. I don't know about humility, but or humbleness, but meekness, timidity, timidness, timorousness, uncertainty, nervousness, hesitancy, inhibition, self-consciousness, and more on that word are anxiety, apprehension, worry, unease, and uneasiness. Another word I would use to describe insecurity is awkwardness, social awkwardness. People who have issues with communicating well. And I want to give a shout out as well to Kevin Samuels, because he has an ABCD type of protocol that he follows, where A stands for your appearance, B stands for your behavior, C stands for communication, and D stands for your digital footprint. And all four of those ingredients in his recipe for a better interpersonal and intrapersonal relationships is very important to identify where you have trouble areas. So I personally have trouble areas in being insecure and socially awkward in certain situations, social situations especially. I hope that I'm getting better at that, but we all have to start from somewhere. I had to identify that I was very self-conscious about my appearance, self-conscious about how to behave around certain people, and I just had to go back and focus on why I had those insecurities. And a lot of it came from childhood. I was picked on a lot as a child. I wore thick glasses and I always had a book in my hand. So that could have contributed to it because I was made fun of a lot. Ironically, the people who made fun of me a lot, they had insecurities of their own. And people have two different ways of responding to their insecurities. They either respond outward or inward, and I responded inward. I began to focus more on myself, and I became stronger physically. I became more confident in my abilities and so forth. If you look at the second definition, they do have the second bullet point under the first definition. They have vulnerability as a synonym for insecurity, which I thought was very funny because I'm like, wait a minute, I thought vulnerability and insecurity are two different things. In my mind, they are derived from a similar source, but expressed in different ways, because you can use vulnerability to your advantage. And I think using vulnerability to your advantage, that is the clear difference between vulnerability and insecurity. No one wants to be around an insecure person, but if you show vulnerability and you show that you are willing to be humble, that's where men find women more attractive. Now, I think that it's the same way around, that women find men more attractive when they are vulnerable, when they can say whatever's on their mind and not feel judged. That's the main thing for me, is to say what I feel and not feel like I'm being judged by my thoughts that are being expressed. Some people have this feeling of not being protected, not feeling that they're in a secure position. When they're insecure, they feel that there's a heightened sense of risk and they're not willing to take those risks. So insecurity is negative in another way, because if you don't feel the ability to take risks, how are you ever going to get better? You know, if we didn't take risks, we wouldn't be able to do a lot of things we do. For instance, in my life personally, I take risks a lot, and it becomes more natural to me, because taking risks and exploring and trying to determine what's going on in the unknown, that takes a lot of confidence. But I'm also vulnerable and humble because I know I don't know everything. I do know that. I'm not insecure, but I am vulnerable, especially when I'm presenting my work and when I'm getting feedback about my work. So if you look at that in terms of a relationship, you are expressing yourself in a confident manner, but always open to interpretation, open to change, and open to wanting to evolve and grow. So I think that's very important. Now, if you come down to the second definition they give, they say insecurity is the state of being open to danger or threat, a lack of protection. This goes back to a lot of historical references where you had job insecurity, where they say here, growing job insecurity. This goes back to historical references where you have border insecurity, borders that were not secure, you know, where the women and children were not secure in a country or a particular region got taken over. So the synonyms for that particular part of insecurity, meaning you don't have protection or feeling as though you don't have protection. The synonyms are unstable, unsecured, loose, rickety, rocky, wobbly, shaky, unsteady, precarious. And the thing about these definitions and synonyms are, when you're insecure, people are less likely to trust you. When it comes to making financial decisions in a relationship or in general, the other person is less likely to trust you. They're more likely to ignore a lot of your suggestions. They're more likely to say that you don't know what you're talking about. They question your knowledge base. They question the things that you've done in the past, if they were reliable or not. And they also, at some point, will question your honesty, because people who are insecure have a lack of confidence. And when you're not as confident, you can make mistakes and you can misinterpret things because fear is there blocking you from making the right decisions. So they also have these words: unsubstantial, weak, flimsy, frail, fragile, spindly, decrepit, unsound, unsafe. The unformal words are wonky, dicky, and dodgy. I don't know where dicky came from, but And the antonyms, of course, are secure and stable. So if you want to have a stable, secure, but also vulnerable situation, my thing is, it's best to look at a lot of the things that you're doing, look at what you think about, because your environment shapes how you think a lot of times, and your thoughts shape what you say, and what you say can shape what you do. Your thoughts can also shape, of course, what you do as well. So my thing, if I had to make a conclusion on this, is insecurity and vulnerability are two different things. Insecurity being a negative, they both being brought out by the same source, but insecurity being a negative because it's hard for people to trust you. It's hard for people to trust you. It's hard for you to make decisions properly. It's hard for you to get out of a rut. You know how people get in a rut and they're just like, I can't figure this out. I can't get this right. I just don't know what's going on. Like, I'm trying to do this and that. And it's like, just calm down, focus on what you need to do and get it done. Put all the other bullshit aside and secure yourself and be true and honest to what you can do. If you need help, ask for help. But at the same time, you can't be insecure asking for help. You can ask for help in a confident manner and be vulnerable and wait for someone to give you the answer or give you the assistance you're requiring to continue to complete that task. And this goes for men and women. I know that, of course, I'm a woman, so I'm speaking about this from a woman's perspective, but this goes for men as well. I had a conversation with my brother about this a while back, and he was talking about how, he could tell the lady he was talking to, the young lady, that she was very insecure, very unsure what she wanted to say. She couldn't get her words out properly. And they're on a date, and he's like, we just at a regular date. He's a young guy, so they at Applebee's, they're 2 for $20. And and he was like, I'm just sitting here drinking my drink, looking at her like, really though? What's the deal? And it wasn't like a blind date. They knew each other, but it was very uncomfortable for him. And he said her insecurity made me feel like she was not ready to even talk to people. And so ladies, we have to really work on that. Fellas, we have to work on that as well. We can't let our professions guide us in social interactions all the time unless there is a financial or professional benefit to that social interaction, such as business dinners and business lunches, things like that. And also, I'll say we had a discussion with MGTOW Universe last Friday on BGS for Women, and we discussed a lot of different things in that conversation. I hope that people learned some things from the women and the young man that was there. But the insecurity, being unsure of yourself, I could hear that in his voice. And this is not a slight to him by any means, but I could hear that in his voice, and I saw where his profession perhaps is contributing to that insecurity. But after talking to him, I realized that he was becoming more vulnerable and open to interpretation. That's a very attractive trait to have. That goes into the letter B and C from Kevin Samuels' protocol. That's what I'm calling it, the Kevin Samuels protocol. He may have another term for it, but that's what I'm going to call it. The Kevin Samuels protocol, A, B, C, and D. So while we're speaking with MGTOW Universe, he his behavior, I think, began to shift a little bit because of what he was saying, because of his communication. He began to become more vulnerable and more open, not only open to our interpretations of what he was thinking and saying, but he became more open to interpretation of his own words and began to clarify what it is he meant to say. And I think that helped him a lot. It actually helped me a lot just listening to what he was saying. It made a lot of sense. Some of the things he was saying made a lot of sense to me. But yeah, I would say self-reflection is very important. I have a couple of videos on my channel about self-reflection and self-improvement. I'll try to remember to leave some of these links in the description box or the pinned comments, or you can check out the cards in this video. But I don't want to go on too long. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope it wasn't too deep. I may do another video similar to this one, speaking more specifically about relationships and how vulnerability is an asset to building strong and healthy relationships. Anyway, I'll talk to you all in the next video. You have a great day, and I hope to see you soon. Peace.